Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of our weekly show, The Subcontinent. Through our episodes, we aim to raise important issues which are generally not covered by the mainstream media of the region of the former subcontinent. We will try to explain the issues, break down controversies surrounding it, and give you an insight into what the experts and common people think.
In this edition of The Subcontinent, we will be looking into the geostrategic tensions between India and Nepal relating to a historical territorial dispute. And we shall review how, since 2006, the victims of a bloody civil war in Nepal between the Maoists and the government are still struggling to get justice.
India and Nepal are said to be allies. But there is a problem here. 35 km square territory on the border between India and Nepal, which is claimed by both countries as theirs. Before the British colonized Nepal, the Kalapani territory was a part of Nepal. The British colonized the region, integrated it as the part of the British subcontinent, and after the colonial masters left, India has assumed control over the land ever since.
India's recent election was won on the platform of development and nationalism, which polarized the country. It also mined votes on national security and foreign policy. Modi's win signalled a major shift in Indian politics to the far right, with Hindu nationalists becoming the default mode of Indian politics and society, promoting controversial social policies at the expense of an economic agenda. India's new hyper-nationalist government has been very active while creating a landscape for new geopolitical policies, and no one is coming away from it unscathed. Last year, the government stripped Jammu and Kashmir of its special status, splitting the state into Indian-occupied so-called Union territories. With this came a lot of objections and outcry, but the state hasn't backed down from its stance, further solidifying its intentions with the release of new political maps of northern regions last November. Following the release of the new political map, the government of Nepal discovered through media reports that Kalapani territory, which is claimed by Nepal, was mapped within the boundaries of India's border. The maps were seen as a unilateral expression of India's encroachment on neighbouring states' borders. Street protests by opposition political parties against India broke out in Nepal, marking their protests by burning the effigies of Indian and Nepalese prime ministers, highlighting the close relationship between the two officials.
Tensions with China led India to mobilize their forces in the Kalapani territory. This was working well with Nepal, and the Himalayan countries showed little interest from 1961 to 1997 in laying any claim in the region. But since 1998, Nepalese and Indian officials have been discussing this issue, but to no use. So why is this area so important? Well, turns out that there is a border pass close to Kalapani which links Nepal, India and China, all three countries together. The Lipu Lake Pass is also the area which served as a trade route between India and the now southwestern China.
The Kalapani region holds strategic importance for India. The Tri-Junction region of India, China and Nepal holds a pilgrim-cum-trade route from India to Tibet. Historically, India and Nepal have enjoyed friendly diplomatic relations. Although claimed by Nepal, Kalapani is currently being occupied by India's security forces since the 1962 border war with China, allowed by Nepal for defensive measures. The new political maps were drawn without consulting Nepalese officials or through means of diplomacy. The government of India has denied Nepalese accusations, stating that it has not revised its boundaries with Nepal, fueling suspicions about the intentions of the new political maps. Nepal has experienced years of internal political turmoil, several devastating natural disasters, and a decade of recent civil war. These internal struggles drew attention away from its borders. Exploiting Nepal's close relationship with India and border security neglect, India has been mincing steps forward and encroaching on the borderlands of Nepal. Nepali reports state that India has infringed on over 60,000 hectares of land in 23 of the 75 bordering districts, with 71 total areas of dispute. Nearly a third of the 1,800 kilometers of borders between the countries are defined by rivers that have diverged from their courses many times over history. Documents and maps needed to revise border definitions are ambiguous, making these disputes ever more challenging to settle.
For more analysis on this issue, we are now joined by Mr. Subhas Gimire, who is the editor of Republica National Daily in Nepal. Mr. Gimire, welcome to the show. I would like to begin by asking that what is the political and strategic importance of the Kalapani region for both Nepal and India?
Well, first off, Kalapani has been in dispute for a very long time. Both the countries have claimed that is part of their country. So right now, a contingent of Indian army is occupying that land. And Nepal claims that is in fact part of her territory. So I think the major question is the origin of the river there, the Kali River. So when India released a map a few months ago, so they had this origin of the river, according to which the land should be on Nepal side. So afterwards, after a week or so, they again revised the map and they didn't mention the name of the river there. So I think that the core of the issue here is the origin of Mahakali River. So because according to the treaty of 1815, wherever the origin of the river, that is the boundary between the two countries.
But border disputes between India and Nepal have been going on for years. Why haven't these issues resolved yet?
Well, I think a lot of the border disputes have been resolved. There is a commission that work on a joint report called the Eminent Persons Group that finished the final report, and they are awaiting a right moment to present that to both the governments. So the group has been asking the time for Indian Prime Minister to present that report. I think there has been some delay on that. And so the hope on the both sides that once the report is accepted by both the governments, because it was prepared by the joint group of the eminent persons from both the countries. So once that report is sort of handed over, then hopefully both the countries can come together and work on resolving the outstanding border issues, because one of the major aspects of that report that we have been told is resolving the border disputes between the two countries.
Yes, and the global and regional media have also covered this situation well. Let's go to the media coverage and see how the media is looking forward to the developments, and then we can come back to the question and answer session.
In his effort to project himself more nationalist, former Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Dubba strongly criticized Indian claim on Kalapai and said that India was treating Nepal like Pakistan. China objected to the bifurcation of Jammu and Kashmir into two union territories as unlawful and void, saying India's decision to include some of China's territory into its administrative jurisdiction challenged Beijing's sovereignty. Our map accurately depicts the sovereign territory of India. The new map has in no manner revised our boundary with Nepal, MEA spokesperson Ravish Kumar. If the dispute escalates, it could jeopardize Oli's attempts to improve ties with India, his country's main trade partner. Nepal depends on India for virtually all of its oil, along with the majority of other goods.
Thank you, viewers, for staying with us, and thank you, Mr. Gimire, for staying with us as well. Do you think that India can maintain its goodwill and Nepal and India can bilaterally resolve this issue still?
Well, to start with, we have a treaty that binds two countries to abide by the treaty and it sort of specifies the boundary, international boundary between the two countries. So that should be respected to start with. And because we have an open border, so there has been some encroachment, perhaps from both sides. So I think that needs to be taken into account. From what we are told, a lot of these issues have been resolved. There was a joint commission that went out and sort of did the survey, and they also placed this. They call these pillars along the border. So I think from what we were told, more than 90% of these border issues have been resolved. There are some outstanding issues, like in Kalapani, in few other places. So that has to be worked out together. There is no, one country cannot alone push this forward. So it has to be an agreement. If India can solve this very complicated border issue with Bangladesh, I'm sure it can solve its problems with Nepal as well, because ours is not as complicated as it was with Bangladesh. So we are very hopeful that they can come together, sit down, look at the map and look at the what's happening on the ground, and then and resolve this, because especially for the people living around that border area, they have the families on both sides, and they have other relations. They go back and forth on a daily basis, on an hourly basis. So we have to sort of keep that in mind also, and take into account the historical facts and then act on it. So there is no other formula than sitting down together and resolving this issue.
That is true and very interesting as well. Thank you for being on our show, Mr. Gimire. It was very nice having you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, people have also expressed their views regarding the relations between Nepal and India. Let's look at some of the comments online, see what the social media says regarding the situation, and then we can continue with the show.
Munda Kushar believes that India is the main reason for all the disputes and territorial conflicts in the subcontinent. Khalid Nizami ironically says that India is not satisfied with its total area and wants a few kilometers more. Kanak Mani Dixit refers to the Indian Army chief's statement and believes that it makes the resolution more difficult to be reached. Mentioning the Treaty of Sagali, this tweet claims that Nepal is being provoked by China and other anti-India elements.
Before 2008, Nepal was a monarchy. The monarchical structure of Nepal was something which was not well appreciated by its people. During the 1960s and the 1970s, there were unsuccessful attempts to turn the Kingdom of Nepal into a democracy. The country did become a constitutional monarchy in 1990, but merely having a constitutional status did not satisfy the people. On 13 February 1996, the Communist Party of Nepal declared a people's war, and this war went on for 10 years, a decade marked by thousands of incidents of killings, disappearances and destruction, justice to which has still not been given.
14 years after the merciless civil war between Maoists and the government ended in Nepal, justice is still out of reach for its victims. Well over 16,000 people were killed, about 1,400 people disappeared, and over 8,000 people were maimed and disabled during the brutal conflict. Nepal's security forces and Maoist rebels face charges of committing war crimes. Crimes that include massacres and killings, torture and enforced disappearances, among others. In 2015, a decade after the war ended, following the peace agreement, the government established the Truth and Reconciliation Commission (TRC) and the Commission of Investigation on Enforced Disappeared Persons (CIEDP). These two bodies of its Transitional Justice Act were to investigate war crimes for the prosecution of perpetrators. Nepal, with a population of 29 million people, has registered about 63,000 complaints with the TRC so far. The Transitional Justice Body's term of operation was to expire in spring of 2019 when it was extended for another year for the third time since its establishment. Many are skeptical that a one-year extension is not enough time for commissions to complete their work. Little progress has been made with cases raising concerns among victims and international human rights bodies that corruption within the system has impeded this process. Since the civil war ended, Maoists and the army have been integrated into the government.
Nepal formed two commissions in 2015 to address the concerns of victims of the civil war. The purpose of these commissions was to track the cases of human rights abuses and to resolve them with accountability and transparency. It is unfortunate, however, that critics claim that these commissions are not even close to fulfilling their purpose. In fact, some accuse the authorities controlling these commissions of being culprits of war. So the question is, can those who are accused of a wrongdoing hold themselves accountable if they are given the charge?
The officials of these bodies are political appointees. 5 years since they began official work, the commissions have made a snail's pace progress. The TRC has only completed initial investigations in less than 10% of its cases. Lack of funding and resources, failing to amend amnesty provisions in the TRC Act that were stricken by the Supreme Court, 10 years of commissioners and officials ending at the TRC and CIEDP have caused growing unrest. Victims and international human rights organizations wonder whether these commissions were simply created to pay lip service, as many who have been involved in these war crimes are now working in the government. The Nepalese army and Maoists seem to be determined on reducing the power of the two transitional justice bodies and hampering justice for war victims. As 10 years come to an end, the government is quickly going through an appointment process without transparency or consultation, which is failing to improve the trust of victims. A major challenge is the continuous culture of impunity in Nepal. There is a sense that the TRC and CIEDP have been specifically created to ensure that influential perpetrators of human rights violations are protected with immunity from prosecution. With such little progress being made in its transitional justice, it remains to be seen whether Nepal's seat in United Nations Human Rights Council will be renewed after 2020.
We are now joined by our guest, Mr. Bishnu Pathak, a former senior commissioner and spokesperson for the Commission of Investigation on Enforced Disappeared Persons, who is currently a professor of human security studies at Transcend Peace University. Professor Pathak, welcome to our show. It's very nice to have you. I'll jump straight to the question. So, over the course of 5 years, why has so little been accomplished by Nepal's transitional justice system?
Yes, thank you. It is partly true indeed. When Nepal signed a comprehensive peace accords in 2006, there has been a provision to form two transitional justice body within 60 days. But finally, Truth and Reconciliation and Disappearance Commissions were formed 8 years, 2 months and 21 days later only. So, Disappearance Commissions, when completed its 80% investigations through the census method and ready to go for this interrogation committee, it was formed, headed by me. When the alleged perpetrator knew that they are going to call us for interrogations, then early January 2019, they went to go for this amendment, and finally they amended the Transitional Justice Act in February 2019, and finally we were outtested. The humiliation part is that when we completed our report and tried to deliver to the Prime Minister of Nepal, but he never provided us time to deliver our report. So it means that we had that much of humiliations too.
Yes, and the global media has also given much attention to the decade-long war in Nepal. Let's see how the transitional justice system has specifically been covered by the global media, and then we can come back to the show.
Nepal's rulers have tried to railroad conflict victims into accepting a transitional justice process designed largely to protect those responsible for abuse. What is true is that the state forces killed 12,000 people. I take sensibility for only 5,000 deaths, and the kings of yesterday should take that for 12,000 others. To say that even those killed by the state were killed by me would not be fair. Former Nepal Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal. The government must build upon the limited but important progress made, empower the two commissions overseeing the transitional justice process, and bring existing legislation into line with the Supreme Court's order. Human rights defenders believe that entrusting the government led by the former rebel party to safeguard highly sensitive information that they themselves might be implicated in is unwise.
We are back. Thank you for being with us. Mr. Pathak, back to you and the question answer session. So, how deeply entrenched is impunity in Nepal's legal system, specifically with regards to the transitional justice system? And what does it mean for the victims?
Thank you so much. Yes, impunity has been a culture in the case of Nepal. And transitional justice systems, we have the law, and we never try to amend this law following the Supreme Court verdict. Supreme Court has given a mandate of that if there had been a serious human rights violations or abuses, neither there would have this amnesty nor the reconciliation provisions. But our this law has mandate both of them. The government never tried to amend following this Supreme Court verdict. So another part is that this law should be amended following the interests, desires of these victims, and the victims generally advocate for to their livelihood and repression package and healing to the communities.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Pathak. We'll end this question answer session, and thank you for being with us. It was nice having you.
Thank you.
So, before ending the show, let's see how people have reacted to the progress done by the transitional justice system of Nepal, if there is any, and let's see how the social media overall sees this situation.
Meenakshi Ganguly put the blame on the government for not reforming the law and also appointing the justice commissions without any proper consultations. Philip Grant criticizes the two commissions for failing to resolve even a single case after 4 years of work and 65,000 complaints. On the other hand, the Nepal's Ministry of Foreign Affairs claims that Nepal has been a unique successful case of bringing peace and resolving the problems. Bin Ghalib's tweet is about the US role in terms of military supply and consultations in the civil war, which took thousands of lives.
With this, we end the episode. This episode is made possible by the hard work of our team, which works consistently to make the show as good as possible for you. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms, and thank you for helping us to improve by giving us feedback online. See you same time, same day next week, and thanks for watching.